Every Tuesday, Wazazi, we have conversations on matters parenting. This month we are focusing on single parenting, and today we'll be talking about living arrangements and custody issues and how they affect the child. So that conversation is coming up shortly. Before that, Tuchambue Gazeti, what is making headlines today, and even as we chambua the Gazeti, reminding you, Eden Tea, finest garden tea. If you hadn't had your cup of Eden tea today, my friend, tafuta Gashai. Gashai is very, very important in the morning to warm you up as you face the day. And Eden tea is the best Gashai on the market, my friend. Comes to you in 5 different flavors: Eden green tea, Eden lemon tea, Eden purple tea, Eden ginger tea, and Eden premium tea. The packaging, absolutely amazing. It is packed right at the source. Karirana Tea Estates, Ukipande za Limuru. And because it's packed at the source, it ensures quality control, my friend. Freshness, rich aroma and taste, consistency in the taste and in the color. Each cup of Eden tea is just pure perfection. And so grab some Eden tea for yourself from the supermarket. It's available at local supermarkets at affordable prices. And Eden tea cares for you and cares for me. And Eden tea is reminding us we continue working together to defeat the coronavirus, washing our hands with soap and running water, putting on our face masks, maintaining interpersonal distance as we interact one with another. Remember, once again, Eden tea truly is the finest garden tea. Big story, death of a business mogul. Got the news yesterday. It was a shocker for many people. Chris Kirubi, who died yesterday aged 80, had built a reputation in manufacturing, media and agribusiness, but many times he found himself on the receiving end, as he did after the collapse of Uchumi supermarkets. Also on the front page, Daily Nation, some more sad news. Former GEM MP Jakoyo Midiwo dies. Midiwo served as GEM MP for 3 terms between 2002 and 2017, elected on National Rainbow Coalition and ODM tickets, respectively. Those 2 stories on the front page. Getting inside, there's quite a bit on both this gentleman, Chris Kirubi, the mover and shaker who had the Midas touch. You can read about him on page 3 and page 4 and page 5. Also, tributes flow for Jakoyo Midiwo. You can take a look at that as well. On matters, the judiciary, 2 judges speak out after rejection. 2 of the 4 judges whose nominations to the Court of Appeal were rejected by President Uhuru Kenyatta have spoken. Have broken their silence over the unexplained allegations that they have integrity questions. So they are asking, what are those issues? So you can take a look at that. That is on page 8. Also something on tourism. On page 10, tourism faces valley of death as pandemic bites. Most hotels in the coast are still empty. Beaches deserted, with dwindling business being blamed on containment measures. Also, rise of Airbnb giving hoteliers sleepless nights. Since its launch in 2008, the online accommodation listing platform has sold millions of rooms worldwide. You can check out that story as well. Moving on, there's quite a bit from the opinion pages, letters to the editor and all that. But we get to the pull-out. Smart company, slippery road to Mumia's sugar revival. Except for the regular cleaning and maintenance of machinery and other assets, no operations are currently going on at the Miller after the receiver manager stopped distillery operations at the ethanol plant in March. That's the big story, smart company pullout. And then SMEs pull out, baby elephant fortune. Samburu entrepreneurs making a fortune selling goat milk to baby elephants at the edges of Matthew Ranges Forest. That's interesting. Elephants zinakunywa maziwa ya mbuzi. That is very interesting. You can take a look at that. And then we also have the Healthy Nation hanging by a thread. Unless the law on suicide is fixed, a mental health crisis looms as more people suffer in silence for fear of arrests, warn experts. You can check that out as well. And then moving on to sports, something on golf. Visitor Stars at Royal Nairobi. I can see something on the Betika National Super League. Talanta Maintain Farm, Grip on Lead, and then also on Motorsports WRC Safari Rally. 9 days to go. You can check out that. Back pages of the Daily Nation. Sasra crack sweep on Mwalimu Sacco. Those, my friend, are some of the key stories you will find in the local dailies this morning. Grab yourself a copy, keep yourself informed on what's happening both locally and also internationally. Custody and living arrangements. That's what we are discussing today on Parenting Tuesday as we continue with our focus for the month, focusing on single parenting. That's coming up shortly. Parenting Tuesday. Wazazi, vuteni stool karibu na TV. Na karibu na radio. We have an interesting conversation we want to get into today. This month we are focusing on single parenting. Today we are focusing on custody and living arrangements. I've got two wonderful guests with me in studio via Zoom. We have got Agnes Ngala, a prep and senior teacher at Rusinga School. Agnes, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very fine. Good to see you. Karibu sana.
Asante.
We also have Jeff Nthiwa. Jeff Nthiwa is a life coach. Jeff, how are you doing?
Very well. Thank you so much. James, how are you?
I'm very fine. Good to see the both of you. Mimi sikupata memo. I can see everybody's in blue. Me, I'm just wearing funny colors here. Why didn't you guys give me the memo?
You have a blue mic.
Ama ni mimi sikuomba vizuri. You know, talking about custody and living arrangements, I was just thinking about this, Agnes, that, you know, culture had a way of protecting children and protecting especially mothers if the man was not around. You know, the culture, I'm from Western Kenya, and in Western Kenya, the child belongs to the man. So if you have a child out there, your dad always reminds you, you have a child. You need to bring them home. That child is yours. Take responsibility, you know, and eventually, as much as the child will may be raised by the mother, at one point your father expects that you will go and get that child and bring them home and show them a place where they can build like a house. But today we have a lot of what we call deadbeat dads. You know, men who sire children and they just disappear into the woodwork, never to be seen of again. Why is that the case?
It's quite unfortunate, and thank you so much for this opportunity. It's quite unfortunate that that's the case. But as they were growing up, this particular deadbeat dads that you're calling them, and I call it this generation especially.
Okay.
And most of them might have not seen their dads present. Maybe because they were out trying to get bread and butter, or they were looking for the next green thing. And so they've grown up not seeing their dads around. And for that, it seems like the norm. So it's very possible that they might not find it very necessary to either be present, or as you say, you're from Western Kenya, some of our generation rarely go back to the farms. So they don't know what that is.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that in mind, it's me, myself, and I. Everything about me. If I can work, get money, sort out these people, fine. If it's not there, mujisort.
You know, Jeff, I keep wondering as a man, you know, why do I have to wait for a court to direct me to take care of my child? I mean, what is wrong with that picture?
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for that question. The thing is with men, right, like Agnes has said from the beginning, the commitment to the child, to the family, to the institution of marriage. We have seen a pattern of men who are really not so committed, or they are weighing their commitments. And I think it's about also the institution. There's no trust to the institution. And also when we are coming to the cities, everyone to themselves. And because in the traditional times, the families would watch you and what you're doing, and people would mentor you and follow you. But right now, I mean, unless someone comes and says they have a child with me, you know, there's no, my dad doesn't know, the family, the elders, people don't know. And that's why we have systems. Before you get married, introduce this person to the family. There's a sense of accountability. So that lack of accountability is what brings about kids suffering, people getting lost, and if you're tired with each other, you just disappear and the relationship is over.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's that sense of accountability that is needed, and just personal responsibility for both parties, men, because parenting is for both.
Yeah.
When we make that decision to come together, we are both co-parents. We are both equally responsible.
Mm-hmm.
But not to blame the man. Also, the ladies, they are responsible, because this is this is a decision between two people.
Very true.
Yeah, because there's also this idea of looking at the man as a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Is the society. These are societal issue, because it takes two. It takes two.
I agree.
And both of us are responsible.
Yeah.
So the lady cannot say, you left me. Right from the beginning, let's do things right.
Mm.
Because when you see some of these news and people saying, oh, you know what, I have a child with so-and-so, then, they come late. They're like, why are you telling us now? How come you didn't tell us when you were falling in love and getting into a relationship? That societal responsibility, hapo ndio tunapotea.
Wow, nowadays when you say you have a child with somebody, they want you to go and do a DNA test. Back in the day, there was nothing like that. But Agnes, I'm just wondering, when parents find themselves in that situation where they're not living together, mostly the mother is the one with the child, and the father has moved on with his life, probably even gotten into another relationship, setting up another family. I sometimes wonder if we ever think about the children and how this affects the children. And I know with what you do being a teacher, you interact with a lot of children. So for children who find themselves in this situation where they're living with the mom, dad comes once in a while or over the weekend, or after every month or 2 months, they get to hang out with dad. How does that affect the child?
That affects the child in a very major way.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to acknowledge that even with these new arrangements, there's a lot of hurting.
Uh-huh.
Like, just even start from the mom, there's so much hurt and a lot of betrayal. And as ladies, as women, we tend to be very emotional. And you see, children will see that emotion. They will pick out when you're sad, they'll pick out when they're feeling, when you want to project, there's crying, there's screaming. You might end up even shouting at the children. You didn't mean to, but it just comes out. So you see, these children then tend to be the recipients of all this that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So they too are getting angry because, first of all, I'm not seeing Dad as much as I used to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do some things with my dad. The girls are very attached to the fathers, but boys also need some fatherly touch, which maybe the fathers had started doing with them, going for football games, going for drives, things that fathers do with their sons. So in this new arrangement, Dad is very almost absent.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy for the parent, the mother now who's left with the child or the children, to feel overwhelmed. Parenting is a lot of work. So those areas that you are sharing, you're feeling overwhelmed, and who are you projecting to? Even without meaning to, are the children. And you see, once the children are receiving all this, one, they're receiving from you, the mother, but two, they also have their own anger issues, because now they're seeing you a lot more angrier than before. They are also seeing you sad, and they're finding it, is it my fault? Is it something that I did? I'm getting into trouble a lot more now that Dad is away, or something has just changed. So you see, the children also will realize there's a big change. Now, even as they go to school now, as a teacher, you'll see these children will project. If there was a lot of screaming, they are likely to scream or shout at the other children. There will be some fighting here and there, or just withdraw, because if mom says, leave me alone, I don't want to be disturbed, so they feel everybody else want them to be left alone, and so they will withdraw. And they are still processing what this is. And so as the parents are processing whatever it is, children also have their bit to process. what it is going on and how do I come in? Is it my fault? What should I do? Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering, when children talk, and one child is talking about their dad and their mom, or one child, usually when they are dropped to school, they are dropped by both parents, but then you have this child, his interaction with the parents is on a schedule. You know, during the weekdays I'm with my mom, I hang out with my dad every other Saturday. When kids are talking, do such issues come up, and how does it affect them in the midst of their fellow children?
Absolutely, they come up. They come up, and here's the simplest way you find them. When they're younger, when they're learning about families, they will hear there's dad, mom, and children.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now in this case, there's just mom and children, or dad and children. So that automatically comes up. So when you hear children describing their families and these few or one of them whose family is not like that, they're already withdrawn. And even as they discuss what they did over their special days like birthdays and their holidays or things to celebrate like parents meeting, and some parents come in twos but yours comes in one, of course the child will feel left out. Like, what's different about this? So this will automatically come up with their discussion. And even when they're dropped from home, let's say they're with one parent Monday to Thursday, and then the other parent picks them from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there's always that difference in how the family dynamics now happens. Because maybe at dad's, there's more freedom. At mom's, we have to sleep at 7, we have to do this and that. So there's definitely some difference, unless the parents are very deliberate about the routines and how they're going to raise this child. There is bound to be a lot of instability with the child.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a bit later. I'm just wondering, Jeff, as parents, because now you find yourself in this situation, there's a baby in between or there are children in between, how do you ensure that you don't project your issues to the children? Because the children is not part of these issues. Mulikosana mkiwa wawili. You know, and sometimes there's the tendency of maybe the parent who's mostly with the child to project a bad picture of the parent who's hardly there. How do you refrain? How do you ensure that your issues remain your issues and your child has got a good perspective of both parents?
Well, thank you, James, and thank you for that question. We have to mature up, especially when we take up the responsibility of parenting. Parenting is not for kids. It's and let me just say this. Well, before you make the decision and you know what creates, let's not pretend that, you know, we don't, I just got here. I don't have people just say, you know, nilijikuta.
Yes.
You know, I just found myself as a parent. The parenting is a responsibility for mature people. And that's where, and there's nothing wrong with the relationship not working, by the way. You may come to a place where the relationship is not working. You're not forcing it. But then, because I deal with couples, when you come to that place where it's not working, be mature enough to communicate to the children that the partnership between your mother and I, you know, I'm talking about the guy communicating, it's over. And this is what is over. It's not my fatherhood to you. And your mom will always be your mother. Your father will always be your father. That assurance to the child is so precious. Because children are driven by the need to be sure.
Yeah.
And they're always asking the question, okay, how about daddy? How about mommy? Even when, you know, because I deal with parents where, in fact, right now I'm dealing with a situation where the man is the one, the lady is the one who is, quote unquote, pushing the guy away from her, from his children. And says, I don't want to see you. And they had to make secret moves with the child to talk by the side without the mom knowing. Can you imagine that? So the child is even learning to lie, to be secretive, because mom has emotional issues. He doesn't want to see you with your father. What are we doing to this? So people need to understand, this is between me and you. This is the relationship between the husband and wife. that has issue know the relationship between the child and her mom, the child and her dad. That distinction is very clear. But it's not just about clarity. It's about communicating that to the children.
Okay.
Because again, we just let the kids, the Lord help you. You will know when you grow up. And then if they ask, we beat them up, because these are adult issues.
Yeah.
Hello, if it's adult issues, let's be adult enough to actually communicate this to kids fearlessly.
Okay. Shortly, we'll talk about, you mentioned something about the family dynamics, Agnes, and we'll get to that shortly, because sometimes now, these are two different homes. Maybe the living standards are different. Maybe at dad's house, we have the big screen and the PlayStation. At mom's house, those things are not important. Maybe on one side, the values are different. And from the other side, we have to go to church every Sunday. There are things we don't watch on TV. There are things we don't do at home. But on this other side, it's free for all. Let's enjoy because we only have the weekend. Let's maximize on it. How do you deal with such issues? We'll talk about that shortly. We are talking about custody and living arrangements, focusing on single parenting. If you have any questions for us or an experience that you're currently going through and you'd want to share with us, feel free to do so. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786316316. Parenting Tuesday, talking about custody and living arrangements. We're hanging out with Agnes Ngala, prep and senior teacher at Rusinga School, and Jeff Thiwa, who is a life coach. Inviting your questions on 20316, WhatsApp 0786316316. So before we get to the family dynamics, Agnes, there's a question for you, Jeff, in relation to what you just said about communicating to the children. Someone is asking, at what age is it best to explain to the child's parents, to the child, that the parents are separated? And the person who is asking says, I have a 6-year-old.
Great. As 6 years old, there is communication. That child tells you, Mommy, where are you going today? When are you coming? That is communication. You have communication with your child. And the thing is, parents, we cannot delegate our children. This is what I say. Even parents who bring their children to us at Destiny Life Coaching, we want them to learn how to communicate with their children as early as possible. And especially if your mother, from that, even before they learn how to talk, a mother can communicate with their child. So 6 years old, that's old enough. That person actually is learning. Some of them are going to school. My daughter is also 6. There's nothing. In fact, they know even before you ask.
Yeah.
They know. That is the age of curiosity, the questions they are asking. So even if you don't tell them, they know. So it's good to, you can bring someone to mediate, they are someone, they trust, a counselor, a professional, a coach. But it's your responsibility to actually draw close to your child and explain these things.
Okay.
Explain how, you see, parenting is also about explaining how institutions work. This is how institutions work. And so don't wait for crisis. Even those of you that are listening and you're in a stable married relationship, well, I'm not a prophet of doom, but anything can happen. Prepare your kids. Let them know how institutions work, so that if it's not working for you, you can actually explain to them. And let me say this, parents, do not feel like separation defines you. It doesn't. It doesn't define you and who you are. And because then people fear, how will my kids see me? How will they look at me? Let's have our eyes fixed on God. Because when you do that, you know that God is a God of us all. And God knew, some of these things, you may have challenges at one point or another. And so don't blame yourself, because if you blame yourself, then you become bitter. And if you look for someone else to blame, and it becomes so hard for you to have a genuine, intelligent conversation, number one, with yourself, with your partner, or with, your children.
Okay. So, Agnes, back to the whole issue of living arrangements and dynamics, when the dynamics are totally different in one home than the other, whether it is in terms of provision, one side is well off financially and the other side is struggling a bit, or whether it is a case of values, you don't uphold the same values. How do you deal with that? Now, let me ask on behalf of a single mother, because the common scenario is the mother, and we said last week there's nothing like a single mother. Let's talk on behalf of the mother who's raising up this child on their own, because that's the norm. How do you deal with a situation like that, where if this child goes to visit the father is well off financially, the father's values are not the values I ascribe to, and so you want to hold back your child, but they still need their dad? How do you navigate through that?
It is actually very tricky, let me use that word. And this is why. Let's say in one home where they are well off, there's all these things that the children want to play. Let's call them toys, and technologies and all that. And then on the other side, there's not as much, but they're getting by. Can the parent, especially if the mother is the one with the few things that the children can explore, the mother, mostly the mother, might feel that the child will tend to want to stay with the father because of all the trappings. However, in this case, most of the times the children just want to spend time with their parents. But if you, the parent, is away, and then in your place, you provide all these toys and things for them to play with, they might as well stay with the mother, because you are not there anyway. And yet they wanted to spend time with you, especially when they're much younger. You, they want to spend time with. It's your approval, it's your affirmation they're looking for. But now, with regard to values, what happens when on one side there's a lot of strictness and on the other side it's laissez-faire? What happens is a child will learn to change their behavior to suit you. So if, let's say, the mother is very strict, when I'm with you for these few days, I will be tip-top shape. Whatever you want, I will do. Then I will be the exact opposite when I'm at the father's. And the children have learned and they know how to do this right from childhood, even when they are in a stable family. So in this case, then, you'll find that a child can have extremes, both extremes. They can be very good at one point, then they can be extremely off on the other side. And you see what this does to the children's personalities, that they start to learn how to manipulate. They are able to manipulate very well. And that is a bit concerning, because as they keep growing, these vices of learning to give you only what you want, and I will give what you don't have to see, we'll see it in society. And unfortunately, some of this develop into these bipolar disorders, because they've already developed ways to please this other parent. Now, on the flip side, there's also the one who feels torn, because they don't know, should I behave this way? Should I behave this other way? What's happening? Where do I stand? Where's my ground? And a lot of times you'll find that even their own relationships amongst their friends tend to suffer, because maybe they want to play with the quiet kids, but at some point they want to play with the ones who are all popular and everything. So they feel there's a lot of imbalance, and this causes a lot of anxiety in the children. There's this anxiety attacks because I'm tired of having to pretend on one side, then I pretend to this other side, and it's back and forth. And if parents don't notice that early enough, it can really, really affect the children. By the time you're noticing, these children have gone into deeper issues that they don't even know who they are anymore, because they have to please you. If we have to be this strict Monday to Friday, then, I can relax. Then, I have to put on again, and I'm strict again. And then, you understand? So it's too much balance for the child to pick up. And one of the things, and I'll say it because I've said it again, is agree. Some of the values that count, whether I'm there or not, this will not be accepted. Your Schoolwork will need to be done. Your integrity still needs to hold. You've got to be honest. You know those family values which you guys had agreed upon when you were together?
Yeah.
It will be ideal and it's advisable that continue them, even when you're in your separate spaces. And one of the things I'll say, and I'll repeat, that as much as we're in different homes, don't use the things you have to replace your absence.
I like that.
Because they might as well stay in one place.
Very, very true. Jeff, I'm just wondering, how do you deal with the fear of being replaced? You know, still scenario, a mother, not a single mother, a mother raising up this child, the father moved on, probably they even have another family, but the child keeps visiting every other weekend. But you see on the other side, there's a picture of a complete family.
Yes.
Maybe they even have step brothers and sisters on the other side, and so they keep visiting every other weekend. This mother, how do they deal with the fear that, you know what, I may be actually replaced? Because when boy comes on this side, it is only a mother. When boy goes on the other side, there's a father, there's another mother, and they're brothers and sisters. How do you deal with that?
And that's why, you know, I like what Agnes has pointed out, the agreement. It's good to work together. Just because the relationship didn't work doesn't have to make us enemies. We still have these children that we have to raise together. And so that agreement, and when things change, communicate fearlessly. I think the problem comes when that competition, it's about competition. It's about who is progressing. And I know there are people even, you know, would hire, you know, other people to stand in for, to look like they're progressing. They have someone, they have moved on. These are psychological games, and they hurt the children in a way. And so the two parties, the husband and wife, when it's not working, manage your agreements. That's what I would say. Manage your agreements and be open to say, you know, this is what is happening. By, you know, when you send Jeff over, you know, this is what he's going to find, this is what is happening. That communication is good, so that the kids are aware this is what is happening and it doesn't define me. Okay. And also the person that feels a sense of fear that the other person is progressing and they are not, or they are going to be replaced. You see, you cannot delegate your fears to the other person. And that is a personal responsibility you have to deal with yourself on your own. Deal with your fears, the fear that you're not enough, the meaning that because he left me is because I missed something. That is a personal responsibility that you may have to deal with our coach. Deal with those, the inner story, because what kills us is that inner story. What does this mean? How will people see me? How will my kids see me? How come, you know, they're doing better? How come, you know, he has moved on, he has someone, I'm left here? What does this mean? Meaning is what gives us pain. It's not even the situation, it's the meaning. So understand also the kids are picking their own meaning. What does this mean? It means that I am this kind of a person. So you're also mentoring, you have responsibility on those kids. Even the man, or, you know, whether it's the man or is the woman that actually gets another, you know, family, you have responsibility on the child that is living with the other partner.
Okay.
To explain to them, to let them know that you're their, you know, their parent, no matter what.
Great.
Yeah.
We're talking about custody and living arrangements. In case you have any questions, send it in now, my friend, because we are almost out of time. 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786316316. We are talking about custody and living arrangements, focusing on single parenting. We have Agnes Ngala, prep and senior school teacher at Rusinga School, and Jeff Nthiwa, who's a life coach. Some of the comments coming in today. Rose says teachers should be sensitive to the emotions of children who are facing a challenge and pray and guide them through as much as possible. Soon after the loss of dad at school, the English class composition test was something like, write about where your father took the family over the holiday. Wow. My son broke down and for some time refused to go back to school. he had to be cancelled by the school counselor after a while. Another comment coming in today, this one says, I grew up in a broken family. My father was strict, my mother was very wadi. In this life, my pick was that you may disagree on how to live together, but it is important that both of you agree on the common set of values for your children and hold each other accountable. And then I had another one here. Loving the topic. Pasi, single parenting is not a walk in the park. I am a mom to two teenage boys, 16 and 17. I have been a single parent for 7 years. Their dad one day just walked out on us. We have never seen him since. My boys were very close to him, and they really grieved for him. I engaged a child psychologist to help them, and this is the best decision I ever made. I believe children should know what is happening from the beginning, and they need to talk out their feelings to heal. Counseling really helps. I'm just wondering, Agnes, that whole situation of weekend you're here, then you're here. When the child is being dropped and when the child is being dropped, do we need to have conversations with them regarding this movement? Because I'm thinking this movement, I'm just trying to think about myself, this movement will affect me. This movement, leo niko huku, kesho nimeenda huku, it will affect me. So should we also have conversations and find out from our children how are they feeling about this thing? Because many times we don't want to hear what our children are feeling. We tell them what they're supposed to be feeling.
Absolutely. We are supposed to tell the children, or we are supposed to communicate. Mm-hmm. Ideally, you have to appreciate and acknowledge that these children have feelings. And they are seeing, just like Jeff mentioned,
yes.
Trust me, they're seeing it. They're seeing and they're noticing, wait, there used to be one master bedroom. Mm-hmm. Now it's not only one master bedroom, there are two separate houses, which means two separate things. So of course they'll question, and if they're much younger, they will ask, why? And when they move towards teenagehood, they might ask, or they just be angry, or they'll assume, maybe because you didn't care enough to tell us, why should you tell us now? I don't care. Yet they do care. And about moving back and forth, I thought I would just add to what Jeff had mentioned, that this favoritism, even when you're together, there's always that one parent that the children tend to be closer to. Mm-hmm. So we cannot escape this favorite parent thing. Mm-hmm. But one thing that is most important, even in the back and forth, is cultivate a relationship of trust with your child. Whether they're on this end or the other side, because ultimately it's the best of your child that you're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. So why not cultivate a friendship, an understanding, whereby when I'll be firm with you, you know it from a point of love. Yeah. When I'll be happy with you, it's still from a point of love. Mm-hmm. And if they're able to receive this from both ends, you see, you're going to be building a strong, very resilient child, but resilience from a point of love and trust, not from being built thick walls and thick skin, because you really don't want to communicate what's going on. And understand that as much as you two came together and made this particular child, they are an individual. Yeah. Right from childhood, they are individuals. And their feelings count, their dreams count, their heartbreak count. Mm-hmm. So just ensure that you cultivate a point of communication between the both of you. Yeah. And even with the child individually, so that you acknowledge the feelings, the disturbance, like you're saying that this movement would disturb you. Of course, it's destabilizing. But when you're able to show a united front and they're seeing love from both ends, believe me, this child is going to still thrive.
Okay. Yeah. Jeff, how do you handle a situation where still we are talking about this mother who's raising up this mother is the one with the custody, they're living with the child. The father moved on. How do you deal with a situation where the man is not interested? It's almost like you have to force him. Even the spending time with their child, it's almost like you have to force them. And because they're not really into it, they keep disappointing the child. The child was supposed to go over this weekend, but Paul, I forgot, I traveled, I'm out of town. They were supposed to go watch a game together. Sorry, I'm working late. So on this side, the mother wants to protect the child because how long can the child handle this kind of being disappointed? I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that? Because it seems like the man, and I'm using the man because I'm a man so that I'm not accused of anything. I am talking for the women today because I am a man. So how do you deal with such a father? They're not interested. It's not important to them.
Yeah.
Do you cut them off completely? Akae huko akwende kabisa, hatutaki kumuona, hata siku ya harusi usikuje kusema ati wewe ndio baba wa mtoto, tutapambana hapa kwa altar. How do you deal with that?
Well, I know that happens. And the thing is, this is where agreements and clear agreements, play a big role. And that's why it's good to get to have a sit down with a third party and actually have clear agreements prioritizing the child's needs. Because just because it's over between us, it doesn't mean that we fight forever. Because this is not just going to hurt us, it's going to hurt the children. It's easy to say, oh, well, just stay there, lock the door, you never see these kids again. But that can only happen if I'm thinking about myself only. I'm thinking about myself, I'm not thinking about the kids. But when you think about the kids, the kids also have a part to play. And it's good to ask, and bring them on board. I know there are organizations now that, sit with you, help you write the agreements and communicate that to the children, so that children also know that you're open and you're committed. That commitment is necessary. If the person is not totally there, again, we have a family law where you can agree also with a lawyer and agree, have those agreements, because for me, parenting is how we build society. Family is how we build, our world is how we build society. It's a key part of nations. Let's take it, seriously. And it's not about, I think there's selfishness that, oh, okay, it's not working. Then you drop like it's hot and run and go on something else and drop.
But what about, Jeff, even as we finish, because we have like 2 minutes, what about a situation where it is the child who doesn't want you? Where ulienda, ukawacha mama yangu. Endaga ukienda, tutakuonea huko kwa TV. I don't want anything to do with you. What if it's a situation like that? How do you deal with that?
Listen to the child. Listen to the child, and the child here, this is where we need professionals. Listen to you can't force the child to love you. Remember, you made a decision, the child also can make a decision. And tell you, Daddy, you went, we are done. The child can make a decision. Listen to your child. Communicate.
Wow, that's a tough one. My time is up for today. Agnes, parting shot.
Remember, the child is an individual. The child has a voice. And even with everything that is happening, it's not their fault. And with that said, communicate with the child. Hear them. Walk with them. And remember, it will take time for them to understand. Not accept, but understand this difference. So remember, they're an individual. And both of you, it would be really, really good if would encourage this particular child's growth. Have that in mind, even with this living arrangement, that you ultimately want the best for this individual who you brought to the world.
Awesome. Jeff, parting shot.
Well, my parting shot is that never reach a place where you think you've done all you can do and give up. There is help out there. And if you're struggling, you need help at Destiny Life Coaching. If you call us up, we can give you a free consultation session to actually help you get to understand and save your family. Don't say you've applied all the tools you know. There's actually help out there, and we are ready to help you.
Awesome.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Agnes. Thank you for having me.
Asante sana. Agnes, asante. Jeff, thank you so much. I'm out of time for today. Wazazi. Yeah, let's not push our issues to our children, and let's listen to our children and let's communicate with them. They are little human beings. They have feelings just like we do. They get disappointed just like we get disappointed. And so I hope today's conversation has been beneficial to you. That's all the time we have for today. God willing, look out for another conversation next week. Have a great day.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.